So there's another situation involving PirateSoftware again. A former piano YouTuber and furry LyricWulf has accused PirateSoftware of a ton of terrible stuff. Here's Lyric's tweet that kicked off this new drama and series of allegations. When I was 20 years old, Jason Thorhall, aka PirateSoftware, aged 31 at the time, emotionally abused and manipulated me for sexual and financial gain. Thor's actions have had a severe impact on my life, causing me to give up being a uni student and a creator. Okay, before we dive into this site and the rest of the tweets in the thread, let's just stop to deal with the first line. Lyric was 20 years old. He's old enough to know what he's doing and to make his own choices regarding relationships. Adding the PirateSoftware was 31 already seems like a bad faith framing to make himself look more like a victim in this situation. This weird trend in recent years of acting and treating people in their 20s as if they aren't adults is weird, and I'm not giving a Lyric a pass with this framing. Okay, now let's go and quickly check PirateSoftware.suck site Lyric made. Actually, wait, before that, let's check Lyric's GitHub profile. Lyric seems to have created the site back in February of 2025, and within these last 2 months of May and June, he's made close to 300 changes to it. Judging by his GitHub history graph and activity, this seems to be the only thing he's been working on for the past 2 months on his what I assume to be his personal GitHub account. Seems like Lyric has been trying to write out a perfect story and frame for these allegations, so he looks like an innocent victim and all the fault lies with PirateSoftware. Alright, now let's actually start diving through the rest of the tweets and site posts Lyric made. So Lyric starts with, on his YouTube channel, he would upload piano transcriptions of video game music. In February of 2018, he would transcribe and publish a track from PirateSoftware's game Hardbound. This is when they first started talking. Later in August 26 of 2018, Lyric made an $800 donation to PirateSoftware while he was streaming development of his game Heartbound. Lyric then claims after that donation, Thor suddenly expressed immense romantic interest in Lyric, and the following day, PirateSoftware would initiate erotic roleplay unprovoked. Lyric says PirateSoftware showered him with affection, praise, and attention, or as he puts it, love bombing him. The messages he posts as an example has stuff like Lyric saying, "I was just wondering if you wanted to hop into another call tonight, and if not tonight, then sometime else." Thor would respond with, "Yes, every day, like I said, silly. My night stream starts in 20 minutes. If you're awake after, we should call." Lyric's like, "Oh, right." Then Pirate's like, "But yes, my plan is to be on voice chat with you every day." The next message is Lyric's like, "You really make my life a ton better." And PirateSoftware is just like, "Yes, you make mine better too." And Pirate also says something like, "You're so good to me." These are the examples Lyric posted. So far, there's no smoking gun. This is pretty tame chatting, all things considered, and Thor isn't saying anything crazy or over the top. Then Lyric said Thor would shame him by calling him corrupt or clueless. Also, keep in mind, a lot of this third-person writing and POV kind of stuff is Lyric's own writing of the situation, which is another weird thing he sprinkled around all his posts on the site. Anyways, back to the messages he posted for corruption. Thor said he doesn't trust Lyric anymore after the little side quest Lyric went on. Thor was very upset that Lyric went and had sexual roleplay with someone else. Yes, online roleplay. No actual sexual relations. It seems like they just had a roleplay relationship online. Lyric's response here is odd. Lyric says, "It was when you were asleep. To be fair, our sleep schedules don't exactly align." And PirateSoftware has a perfectly and completely reasonable response here to what he clearly thought as cheating in an exclusive online role-playing relationship. These are sentences and words I don't think I'd ever say in my entire life. Okay, back to Pirate's responses. "Who gives a fuck if I was asleep? Sorry I fucked someone else, but you were asleep at the time, so..." This evidence Lyric posted actually paints Lyric in a worse light, since he seems to have known that Pirate thought of this roleplay relationship as exclusive, and when he felt like roleplaying but Thor wasn't online, it was okay to find some random other person to fill his roleplay desire. Pirate also said he wasn't alright right now, and his trust was broken in Lyric since Lyric showed he could easily go and cheat on his roleplay relationship on a whim. Lyric's next tweet response was, "When I told him repeatedly that I wasn't interested in a committed relationship, Thor insisted that I change my mind, not taking no for an answer. He tried to gaslight me into believing that I was already implicitly committed to him and that I could just say yes." Well, let's take a look at the convo snippet Lyric posted. Pirate, "Are you saying you're interested in a casual thing with me, but not a serious one?" Lyric, "I'm attracted to you, but I'm not ready for a commitment yet." Back to Pirate, "So sexual stuff with me, but also with others then?" Now Lyric's like, "I just like want to be friends or like close friends, you know?" Okay, this is perfectly normal and healthy conversation on Thor's part, to be honest. Thor has some kind of relationship with Lyric at this point, and Thor believes it's exclusive. Lyric doesn't want commitment, but also wants to maintain some form of friendship, or possibly more in the sexual variety. Pirate is being completely normal and reasonable here. He's trying to get a clear answer on the status of their relationship. Pirate clearly doesn't seem to want a poly relationship with multiple people, and he's just confirming if if that's what Lyric wants or expects. In the next convo snippet Lyric posted, you can see Pirate clarifying clearly and directly, Pirate, so if it's a situation of me being of the multiple friends with benefits kind of things, I just wouldn't be into it. Lyric's like, I understand. Pirate's like, does that change any of your answers? Lyric is like, now, yes, I want to be friends or close friends. Again, Pirate is being perfectly clear here and having perfectly normal conversation. He's explicitly saying what he doesn't consider acceptable in a relationship and trying to get a clear answer from Lyric. In these two conversation posts, Lyric posted as evidence, it doesn't seem like Thor is insisting Lyric to change his mind. Thor and Lyric clearly had different views of the relationship and its status. Thor, after finding out Lyric didn't see it the same way, was having an honest and direct conversation trying to figure out what Lyric wanted and expected. Again, perfectly normal and reasonable messages from Thor. Lyric's next tweet accused Thor of more manipulation and asking him to date Lyric. Thor was able to convince Lyric to act as part of a committed relationship without being official and blaming Lyric's hesitation in the first place. So in his first convo slice, Lyric starts with, I just wouldn't be able to give you the time you deserve. Pirate responds with, what does that even mean? Lyric responds with, I'm a double-time student and I'm a total mess right now. I just don't know if I can handle more stress. I was infatuated with you when we first met. Pirate just responded with, was? Lyric just keeps mentioning he was obsessed when they first met. Thor now asks what's changed and mentions from his side he feels like everything changed when Lyric started flirting around. Then Lyric's next picture seems to skip a lot of the conversation and picks up with Thor saying, you said you have a better idea of what you want for your future. What is it you want? Lyric says, I want to be stable and focus on one person. Thor responds, that's vague but positive at least. Then Lyric continues, ideally the end goal is to live with my significant other. I guess that would be obvious thing, wouldn't it? Or rather, I guess that's one of the many end goals. Pirate just responds with, well, I guess I wish you luck then. It's a good, solid, positive plan. So in these two related conversation segments, nowhere does Thor force Lyric into dating him again. Thor doesn't blame Lyric's hesitation either. Thor once again says his entire problem was he thought the relationship was exclusive, but it wasn't. Lyric's comments are weird here too. Lyric's earlier messages were he didn't want a committed relationship, but in his own words in this part of the convo, Lyric says he wants a relationship with a single person. Thor seems to realize the relationship is over and takes it well here. When he read those messages, he just responded with a good luck, and that's a solid plan. This isn't exactly blaming language, and again, no part of this seems like Thor is forcing continued dating onto Lyric. The next tweet Lyric makes is actually a month before the previous post. The previous posts were in October. These next messages are in September. Apparently they had plans to meet in person for what seems to be the first time at TwitchCon 2018. Thor just mentions they'll have fun at TwitchCon and Lyric agrees here, and both mention wanting to cuddle, and Lyric responds with, how unfortunate it would be if innocent cuddles turn into something more, and Thor says, super wanty. Okay, so again, this seems like a normal relationship kind of stuff. Well, minus the furry ooh language. They both clearly want to meet each other in person, and Lyric is the one himself that mentions that he wants sexual things to happen. Like in the screenshot Lyric posted, he's the one explicitly saying he wants something more first, not Thor. Thor just started with, it would be fun to meet at TwitchCon, and both the cuddling and sexual stuff was Lyric's responses. Again, seems like Thor didn't force or push anything against Lyric's will. Lyric seems like he was fully on board with everything happening at this point, and he himself wanted more. Alright, in the next tweet we have Lyric saying they did meet at TwitchCon in 2018, specifically on October 26. On the first day, they roamed around with Shay and some other streamers. By night, the group went to a bar. Lyric didn't attend since he was 20 and therefore underage to drink. Later that same night, Thor excused himself from the bar and joined Lyric in his hotel room. I don't know, sounds like Lyric at this point invited Thor over, and this matches up with Lyric's previous comments about wanting to cuddle and do more. There's no mention of Thor forcing his way to the hotel. Seems like this was completely mutual on both parties' side. Now, Lyric's next tweet is about the second day, where we were roaming without Thor. Shay mentioned that Thor has a secret wife. After we went back to Thor's hotel room, I messaged him asking about a wife, which Thor denied and blamed Lyric for misunderstanding. Well, let's take a look at the conversation snippet posted. Lyric is now upset that Thor supposedly has a secret wife. From my extensive research Googling and asking AI, Thor has never been married and doesn't have a wife. Also, isn't it a bit of the pot calling the kettle black at this point? Thor was upset Lyric was flirting around and having sexual roleplay, and now Lyric is upset at the possibility of the shoe being on the other foot now. Anyways, back to the convo Lyric posted. Now, Thor turns the tables on Lyric. Thor says as far as he knew, they were just fooling around and seeing if they were compatible. This time, Thor says Lyric was the one pushing for the commitment kind of thing, and Thor has a lot of work stuff going on and doesn't have time. Thor straight up played the universe card on Lyric, throwing everything Lyric said in September back into his face. Anyways, Lyric now asks Thor if he has a wife, and Thor denies it. Now, Lyric in a lot of these posts has small thought bubbles under the messages, and this post, it's really bad. Thor clearly denies having a wife, and Lyric's thought bubble is gaslighting, and Lyric must be delusional, overreacting, and misunderstanding. Lyric, yes, you are misunderstanding and overreacting. You thought Thor had a wife, Thor doesn't, and said so. Then Lyric continues with, he just heard about it, and that's all. And Thor responds with, neat. And honestly, what else can you really say in a situation where where someone accuses you of having a secret wife you don't actually have. And then Lyric continues with, I just wanted to talk and didn't want to jump to conclusion, and this is weird. Thor responds it was a bit weird, which is perfectly valid in this case, and Lyric has another thought bubble under that where he's like, Darvo attack, mirroring, trying to disengage, saying Lyric is in the wrong for bringing up the topic. Like, no, Lyric, you're reading way too much into this. The entire accusation was weird, and Thor isn't implying you were wrong for bringing it up. It's just a weird accusation that had no basis. What else is there to say on something that doesn't exist? Then in the next tweet, Lyric says he explained the situation to Shay. When asked if it was true, Lyric says he guided Thor to his hotel room. Shay was sympathetic and would tell Lyric that they and Thor were sexual partners and had agreed to be open at the con as long as they communicated it with each other. So there's a lot to unpack in this tweet. This confirms Lyric was the one that invited Thor to his hotel room and wanted sexual relations. In the previous post, Lyric said Shay was the one that told him Thor had a secret wife, but now Lyric is saying Shay is saying that he himself and Thor are sexual partners. Furthermore, Shay and Thor agreed they were open at the con as long as they communicated with each other. Also, while not mentioned in this post, I think it's important to bring up Shay and Thor live together. So Thor and Shay are, by what's implied, are in a relationship, but open during the con. So there's no way Shay wouldn't know about his secret wife if there was one. And second, Shay wouldn't stay in the relationship with Thor if Thor actually had a secret wife, since they were in, again, what seems to be a committed relationship minus the open con situation and living together. Lyric's description of the events in order doesn't make any sense here. Now, here's where it gets a bit odd. In the next tweet, Lyric says Shay was devastated that Thor broke their trust by sleeping with Lyric and messaged Thor about his uncommunicated infidelity. Thor blames Lyric for sharing their conversations and denied any involvement with Shay. After Lyric left the room, Thor blocked him. Lyric starts his convo post with, I'm sorry. Pirate's like, says, nah dude, you're not, sending logs to Shay. Lyric is like, what? I don't know what you want. Pirate then continues asking Lyric to please leave him alone. You, Lyric, showed Shay logs of our conversation and now Shay's talking with me about them. Why that would ever be okay is beyond me. Lyric fires back with, I have no words for you. Right now, if you would have told me what's going on, I would have been fine with it. Pirate seems done at this point with, don't really care dude, nothing is even going on. This part is hard to make a judgment on, since Lyric doesn't seem to be a reliable narrator. It's hard to say if Shay and Thor were actually in a relationship at this point or not. If Shay and Thor were in a relationship, then the comments and posts about Shay telling Lyric that Thor has a secret wife that he's currently married to don't make any sense, cause Shay being in a relationship with Thor and living with him would know. If Thor and Shay weren't in a relationship like Thor claims in the last message, then Lyric's accusations are weird, and it's incredibly odd to send what amounts to erotic roleplay relationship convo to someone not involved in any way. Shay wanting to talk about the roleplay conversation with Thor based on Thor's own comments doesn't seem to point to that. Thor and Shay do have some type of relationship going on at this point, because if they weren't, why would Shay care about some online erotic roleplay? It's weird there's multiple conflicting statements and posts from Lyric proof, but Thor's side and statements seem more consistent and credible based on what's publicly known so far. Back to the tweets. Lyric now jumps to March 2019 and does a chargeback on the initial $800 donation he made in August of 2018. Naturally, Thor was upset to have all that money disappear from his studio. The supposed proof Lyric posted is pretty weak here. The convo slice basically just has Thor asking Lyric not to monetize his video about Heartbound and to have a licensing agreement. As for the $800 chargeback, again, I say at this point it's in Thor's favor. This, like Lyric said at the very start of the thread, was a donation. Let me say that again. A donation. This donation was also made before Lyric had any kind of super close relationship with Thor. Doing a chargeback on a donation you gave of your own free will without any outside influence doesn't look like the actions of someone innocent or a victim. This seems like the actions of someone that was hurt or didn't get what they want and is now trying to do as much damage back as possible. Lyric says he has a Google Doc somewhere recounting the events at TwitchCon, and he has a section on his site called TwitchCon 2018 Final Conversation, but he has a work in progress tag on it, so I'll review this part in another video later when Lyric finishes doing whatever changes he needs to make here. There's a few more posts, but I'll investigate and make another video when Lyric finishes posting his part 2 of the allegation he seems to be clearly working on. So this entire giga hit piece is pretty dumb and inconsistent. Lyric comes across as an inconsistent narrator and vengeful near the end trying to retake donations. All the conversations posted seem to show Thor as being mostly normal in his chats and direct, with Lyric constantly changing his mind and order of events. How did a miscast mana potion in World of Warcraft cause me to go down a gay furry role-playing rabbit hole?